Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and area that matters to you. We travel to 20 different cities across the length and breadth of India to be able to reach you, the MSME entrepreneur, directly. This is some of the highlights of a panel discussion that I did in Lucknow, promoting business in India 2.0. We had some of the biggest names and voices from Lucknow joining us to talk about how you, the MSME entrepreneur, can look at growing as well. Do take a look. Thank you all very much for being here tonight to talk about really what is happening when it comes to promoting business and promoting business in a new India. India is changing. India is becoming a bigger version of itself, 2.0 if you want to call it that. What really is driving that change? First and foremost, I want to kick this off by talking about the biggest announcement we've seen, which of course is the budget. And specifically for MSMEs, there has been an announcement in terms of, which has been positive, and there hasn't been too much else being announced for other industries, so MSMEs definitely in focus. Jay, I want to come to you. It's definitely been positive. Would you have liked to see more? This was a demand that really had come for MSMEs in the last budget itself, but now we've seen some movement on that.
Yes, I think there is a lot of proactiveness from the government on the MSME front, and they just announced to reduce the corporate tax on turnover below 250 crores. That's a big step ahead, and I think MSMEs need to be given a push. In terms of UP, I must say that it has not been easy doing business in UP till now. But again, the state government being aligned to the central government, there's a lot of hectic activity going on now on the policy front. And I think there's a lot of speed and there is a lot of genuine effort to generate some employment. So I think it's a good time to be in UP.
Jay kicked this off by saying it's not easy doing business in a place like Lucknow. Perhaps both of you can talk about what some of the biggest opportunities, what some of the biggest challenges have been starting a business.
UP as such was never too, alive and kicking as far as entrepreneurship was concerned. But of late it is picking up. People, educated people, academia, they are kicking jobs and starting up. So definitely things are changing, but yes, it's not easy doing business here.
Of course, the opportunities are there from the point of view that because there are less businesses and there's a lot of opportunities where there's less growth. For example, in the retail sector, which is one of the things that I started, we set up a boutique retail space. And because of the lack of such things here, because once we set it up, I think we saw a huge exodus of brands coming into Lucknow, and you can really see that now, 6-7 years later. So it, of course, it's difficult when you're starting out, but then opportunity also exists. Because in the metros, you're saturated from one point of view, whereas here, looking at the hospitality industry, the retail industry, there's a lot of opportunity at all levels, I think.
All right, okay. So we've spoken about perhaps some of the challenges that we're seeing when it comes to doing business in India right now. I want to inject a dose of positivity, if I may, and talk about what some of the benefits are of being based in a place like Lucknow, outside of the metros. And I want to open this up to the entire panel. What may be the one or two things that you would say definitely has worked in the favor of being based outside a metro?
So I think the best part of being in Lucknow is that it is the state capital. So, and the center of a lot of political and very hectic activity in the last 6-7 years. So it is a center of attraction. As of now, there is a lot of infrastructure development. So in that terms, it has become conducive for business.
I'd like to add something. India is now a startup nation. And UP, and specifically for that, Lucknow, is going to be the capital at the heart of that. That's what we envision as an angel investor or as an incubator, that when the Chief Minister, Honorable Chief Minister promised that he is going to bring in the India's biggest incubator in town, that is something that shows their intention of trying to support the new ecosystem. The amount of digitalization that is changing in the government of India, as well as even in the state, also shows the commitment of them trying to change. We should also see that the nation is a 71, 72-year-old country. It is evolving faster than ever. It will take time to build up.
Positives of being in UP, the most populous state. So you have the labor and you have the customers. So I think that's a big advantage.
From the point of view of a startup which I have, it's a agri food, health food processing industry that I am in. In UP is an agrarian economy, so raw material was very easy for me. So that's one. Two, of late, recently what we have noticed is there are a lot of policies here which are helpful for food agri processing industries, and a lot of subsidies which are very attractive. Initially I was thinking, after I do my model, I will move my unit to somewhere in Haryana or close to Delhi. I've changed my decision. I would set up a unit here in Lucknow.
All right. So just to sort of add to that, we get a lot of inquiries on a twice-a-week call-in show that we do as part of the Leaders of Tomorrow. And a lot of people tell us that because we are not based in a metro, we find it very difficult to get funding, to be able to convince investors that we have a sound business model, that this is a business. So from the point of view of funding, from the point of view of entrepreneurs, from the point of view, of course, of the industry body, if you can talk to us about perhaps what your own experience has been, what your thoughts are on that.
So about funding, so I can tell you this, a good idea gets funded no matter where it comes from. There have been a lot of incidences wherein a tier 2 or a tier 3 town person has got funded. The only thing was that India had a golden triangle, a Delhi, a Bangalore and a Mumbai. So that is quite changing because of the new regime of the country is changing the opportunity to everyone everywhere. And that's the change that a tier 2 gives you an opportunity. It just has to be just a good model.
So if I may add, so one hand you have this NCR region part of the UP, which is tech enabled, right? So you have it is central part of the the startup ecosystem. On the other hand, rest of the UP, broadly rest of the UP has advantage on handicrafts, fashion, and agriculture. There is a disconnect between the so-called India and the Bharat. And you have an India in UP, you have a Bharat in UP.
Sure, fair point. Just to go back to the previous question, of course, I was wondering if you had any comments on that.
I think you're talking about tier 2, tier 3 cities. A person living even in the remotest of village has access to finance today. Because I can quote this example that I run a dairy business. We have a network of 80,000 farmers. And today, if I have to transfer some money to a farmer's account, and I don't do it and I say, today was a Sunday and I could not do it. He says, sir, e-transfer kar dijiye. Ye to turant aa jata hai. Isme Sunday nahi chalta hai. So they have their ATM cards, they go to the block headquarters, they withdraw their money, and they do all kinds of electronic transactions. They are up to date with everything. So access to finance is there, even to a farmer, to a small businessman, to a big businessman, everyone.
Okay, would the two of you agree perhaps?
Definitely. I mean, digitization is something which is coming to our villages. For example, one of the organizations that I'm also working with is the Digital Empowerment Foundation, where they've set up a center for helping weavers to support their, to actually help build social entrepreneurship in our village, which is Saidhanpur in district Barabanki. And we're working with around 200 families of weavers there. And over the last year and a half, we've really seen the change now that they have access to the internet. I think it's made a big difference.
Yeah, I agree and disagree a bit also. Yeah, funding is available in terms of bank finance, but is it affordable? To some it is affordable, to some it's not. For a startup, if you right away ask for collaterals, if the ask is little more than the minimum, then you don't get it easily. That's one. Two, yes, now VCs are coming here. Angel investors are coming here in Lucknow too. I represent TAI in Lucknow, and in last 1 year, there have been 3 programs where VCs and angel investors have come down to, see with the startups here, how they're doing, and we are ready to fund if we get good ideas here. So yes, even banks are there, Mudra is definitely there, and VCs and angel investors are coming. So if the ideas are there, the environment is, warming up to the idea of funding.
Time for a break on this episode where we're bringing you highlights of a panel discussion that we did in Lucknow. Do stay tuned, much more on the other side. Welcome back. With us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight I'm bringing you highlights of a panel discussion that I did in Lucknow, where we had some of the biggest voices joining us to debate promoting business in India 2.0 and what MSME entrepreneurs should know. Do take a look. What are we doing as educational institutions? What are we doing as colleges that are specifically dedicated to training these students who are coming out of the colleges for the jobs of the future? As we are moving to India 2.0, is there enough understanding of what it's going to take to train these students? Because most companies tell us that we are training students for the jobs that we're hiring them for because they're not coming in with the requisite skill sets. So do you think skilling and job creation and job training is going to be a big issue?
Skilling is an issue when you talk about the kind of curriculum which is being taught in ITIs and the way education is happening in tier 3, maybe tier 4 kind of engineering colleges and business schools. I think there the concern is much more. It is not at all a concern in the top tier 1 or tier 2 because the curriculums are aligned with all the best B schools or all the best engineering colleges of the world, right? So curriculum from the design point of view as well as how they are taught. So I don't think there is any issue there. The issue is that the third tier and the fourth tier and the ITI. Like for example, if you look at the curriculum in ITIs, it's very old. It doesn't get changed very fast. And today, I don't think, I mean, to whatever I could see and I could review, you don't teach AI, you don't teach all these. There is no reason why they would, standard 8th grade or a 10th grader will not be able to make apps, right?
All right. My second question, of course, and this is based on what Sachin was saying to us earlier in terms of ease of doing business. The central government has adopted single window clearance as one of its key policies and themes, promising to move India up the ease of doing business value chain globally. What can perhaps fix then what is being announced as a policy and what's really happening on the ground? I want to open this up for the panel.
So I've been a brief part of the Planning Commission of UP in the higher education, member expert to the group. And there was something that we found out. It is the maximum of the people are leaving by the class 8th. So I personally felt it was the class 5th beyond, that is class 6th onwards, the entrepreneurship should be inculcated in the curriculum itself. That's where the person gets that opportunity to get in. At the same time, I'm very happy with the agenda that you had, budget. The government has understood the value of AI, the blockchain technology, maybe not in the crypto, they don't see that as a legal tender, but in everything else. And that is something which is very promising for me, not just as a VC or as a entrepreneur or even as a citizen. Because I see those better interventions will give me better results. And as you rightly said, the single window system, those systems will work better and will be more responsive with these kind of technologies, which are people and system governed rather than a government governing them.
Well, on ease of doing business, as you mentioned, I'll give you one example on how the UP government is working. So we have this Udyog Bandhu for redressal of grievances of all the businessmen. And it has been there for a very long time. But suddenly, in the last 3 months, it has become hyperactive. I mean, I attended the first meeting. It happens on every first Monday of every month. So there we were asked about some basic problems of the business community, what they were facing, and how the government can help in actually addressing those issues. So we thought it is just like any other meeting. But we did put up some problems. Now, when I go to the second meeting, the first meeting had 22 delegates. The second meeting now has 150 delegates and more than 10 principal secretaries attending that meeting and giving their answers in writing to whatever the businessman had to say. Now, the third meeting had more than 500 delegates, and each and every problem that was on the agenda was solved then and there.
Add something for the ease of doing business. So there are certain new policies that the Industrial Development Department as well as the IT department has added on. And I personally felt the changes happening very fast on it. But there was a challenge that every time those policies being made were not actually in sync, as he rightly said, with what people wanted. Since 2017, 13th December, the new IT policy came, there have been already 5 amendments to that policy. It's just 1.5 months. So yes, they are now listening to us. They are trying to take in our thought process and evolve even the governance systems.
So just an intervention to, on that point of teaching entrepreneurship to students of Standard 5. What I would suggest is building the urge, as in building an attitude of knowing the unknown and solving problems. If they build this eagerness to solve problems, knowing the unknown and having a risk orientation, the rest of the other parts would happen. Because if I prescribe that teach entrepreneurship, then again, the curriculum comes, who are the entrepreneurs, who are the best people around entrepreneurs, it becomes theoretical in nature. So can I have an education which builds this risk orientation, the urge to know more and solve problems?
Build the framework, of course. All right, very quickly then, let me take closing comments, and I want to come to you first, Sachin, and talk about your experience of taking a business like yours, branding it, creating that market for that, knowing that there would be a market for that because it's so niche, and then basing it out of a place like Lucknow. What's that experience been like? And perhaps talk to the audience about your 1 or 2 key learnings.
Right. So, well, I have a small history of fitness industry with me. We run a chain of fitness centers here in Lucknow, and of course, so I have a few centers in Punjab as well. So that gave me a confidence, that people are looking for healthy food options, healthy snacking options. And from there, I graduated and launched my latest startup, that is Kiros, which I thought, when I started researching, I found that raw material is abundant here. So that was one, reason why I started here. Secondly, the VC funding, the angels have started coming here. The government is receptive. So, there were I was in two minds a lot of times that whether or not I should start here the next venture. But the distance has been killed with technology these days. So I can connect with people, with mentors, or the branding consultant is available to you even if he's in Bangalore. Distribution consultant is available even if he's in Bombay. So that, creates, ease of, creating a brand out of Lucknow and scaling it above. So you can aspire, even if you are a Lucknowite, that you can create a brand here, do a test model study here and scale it.
All right. One thing that we don't talk about quite as often, and Josna, I want to come to you on this, is of course the role that women-owned businesses, women-owned startups are seeing, the kind of traction they're getting. Research reports show that between 2 to 4% only is the kind of funding that's going to women-owned startups versus the total funding coming into industry. Even if the numbers are small, that's still nothing to write home about. You are, of course, actively involved as far as women's businesses are concerned. As a woman founder yourself, what's been your experience? And perhaps you could talk to our viewers as well on that.
I mean, societally, it's much more difficult for women to start their own businesses than men, looking at the numbers of businesses that are there. But in many industries, in agriculture, for example, there's a huge opportunity. So it's really sad that in the budget, there's really no specific mention of funding or, women should get more of if the government was to focus more on women setting up their businesses, and if other organizations also would support. I mean, we need a more supportive environment to be created, I think, for women to start their businesses. So this is something, I mean, we're losing out on 50% of potential businesses. So I think this is something that everyone needs to focus on, us as federations of commerce, as government, and as groups of entrepreneurs, and to support our daughters and our sisters and our mothers to start businesses.
Let me talk to you, Vinayak, about the role of technology. We talk so much about technology being, of course, a great leveler. Technology also gives opportunities to someone who's not necessarily perhaps based in a big town to be able to start a business and scale that business. Do you see enough understanding, even as we're saying there isn't, skilling for jobs of the future like AI, etc., enough understanding of the role of technology for small businesses? Do you see enough of them using it?
So I'll take this question as a two-way activity. One is the ecosystem actually responding to that part, and the second one is the citizens also understanding what the ecosystem is trying to provide. So coming back again to the budget, what the government has said, that 500 million new Wi-Fi is coming to the rural village. I'm very happy. The citizens of the country will actually be able to have those opportunities which was not there with them. As he rightly said, that he knows the e-way payment will actually work on even a Sunday, so you can't skip the payment. And there will be much more things to learn. So learning-wise, as you said, the technology, yes, it was not percolated down to the maximum of the citizens because of the reason the technology was out of reach. But then I'm very happy the government is actually building those bridges for the people to actually learn that. And that I'm pretty sure will actually enhance the use of technology. And there are a lot of people using the word blockchain around and AIs around and AR, VRs around. But the fact, out of the 37 companies we have funded, there are only 7 or 8 of them which are in the space of tech. Only 5 or 6 in the space of tech-enabled. Everything else is going to be something which is an actual problem-solving, solution-giving company. So yes, that's actually working.
Great. I want to talk to you, Jay. You were talking about what the state government is specifically doing when it comes to promoting business here in Lucknow, here in the state, of course. The Chief Minister has announced investments as far as solar parks, e-logistics parks, etc. are concerned. There is a big focus on infrastructure as well. To be able to then see those opportunities materialize for MSMEs, 2 or 3 things that the government should do in your mind if we want to see MSMEs participate in India 2.0?
If we talk about UP, I think the 2 things that the government actually needs to do for MSMEs to grow and to build a positive atmosphere. One is that the process of governance. I mean, they have a lot of policies and they have a lot of incentives. But even in the last government, we saw it was really difficult to access those benefits. So one is that the system of governance has to be spruced up. I am very positive about, how the government is taking it ahead. Now, another thing that has been inherently a cause of trouble for businesses in UP is the law and order. And it has always been a challenge, and it is still a challenge. Government is making all the efforts, that is visible, but yes, on the ground, the situation is not as we would all desire it to be.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening to talk about really promoting business in India 2.0, what's it going to take, policy initiative, and also framework and funding. Ladies and gentlemen, can I request for a round of applause for our panel tonight, and thank you all very much for coming in. Completely out of time on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you want to know which city we're heading to next, or you have any feedback on this show, you can always write to us. Our email ID is leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. On social media, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. You can also reach us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.